What's up, Vegas? We're back with episode 55. Holy shit, we are moving into this podcast. Thank all of you guys that have been along this journey. We're approaching 7,000 downloads in 6 months. So thank you guys for that. And make sure you guys are subscribed to the YouTube channel. I'm starting to push that a little bit more. Seems like a lot of people like to watch podcasts now instead of listen. And I don't blame you guys. If you guys are stuck at home, you might want to just watch our little pretty faces, just talk to each other and blab for about an hour or so. So thank you guys for that. And today I have a local cinematographer and director. He has produced a handful of award-winning and award-selected short films. He's also worked on Emunah. And if you guys remember Emunah, back in episode 11, that was the award-winning short film that Michael Yosef had won an award for, and we got to talk with him. So a little bit of an interconnectivity within Las Vegas. As we know, Vegas is the smallest big town in the United States and maybe the world. So Michael, if you're listening to this, thank you for this connection. And without further ado, Mr. Joel Martinez.
Thank you so much for having me, man. I am excited to talk. I love the show and couldn't wait to be here. So that's why I'm all done up today.
Put on your makeup and everything?
Oh, yeah, man. I right here. I'm shaved.
How does it feel being on the other side of the camera for once?
You know, definitely nerve-wracking. I think this is my second time being in front of the camera, and which is funny because I've been behind the camera like 100 plus times, like easy, you know, probably way more actually. But yeah, no, it's cool. It's cool. It's nice to just kind of just relax and be yourself and just talk.
You get to let loose.
Yeah. Instead of when I'm behind the camera, I'm just like thinking like, all right, don't mess this up. Don't mess this up. What am I doing? All right, move an inch this way. You know, you're just so technical. Now I'm just like, somebody else is doing it. Don't think about it.
I have to say, I give you guys props that are all in the film field, because anytime I'm recording a podcast, my worst fear is that the camera like stops recording for some reason, and then everyone goes through the acts, and I'm just like, God damn it, that was terrible.
Yeah, no, that is a thing that just scares people. Is you're like, because sometimes you can just like slightly hit a record button if you're in a hurry, but it doesn't record. And, you know, sometimes media cards are like not good enough. So then you record and then 10 seconds later it stops recording on its own. So it's always like terrifying to think of that. And when you're on a huge shoot, you just don't want to even imagine that at all.
Yeah, I'm always constantly checking. I check probably like 2 or 3 times throughout like an hour and a half conversation.
Oh yeah, with this kind of thing too. Like, what if it cuts off like halfway through? And
that happened to one episode so far, and I felt so bad. Also, another film guy, and I was like, oh, the irony.
Of course it would.
And it was obvious, and it was the camera on him that after just halfway through, it was just like, I said that the memory is full, even though it wasn't. So I don't really know what the deal was behind it, but God, I hate it.
Technology or the universe talking to you, who knows, man.
But I think your profession is important to today's world, because it seems like now that everyone's a walking brand, you have to kind of have some knowledge and skills when it comes to either content creation, filming, editing, something like that. It's almost becoming like the secondary skill to computer programming, just because everyone has to show off their brand and their image nowadays, or else you kind of just fall into the little crevices of the world and forever remain to be seen.
You definitely feel left behind if that isn't the case. So yeah, no, for sure. Like I'm so happy to have been born in a time to where this is so important. But at the same time, like the whole attention span being so short nowadays kind of works against you at the same time, because you grow up, for example, watching movies, and like you sit down in a theater and you expect to be there for an hour and a half. You watch Netflix, you expect to be there 30 minutes, an hour and a half. But when you're working in an economy where, like on social media, the first 5 seconds by far are the most important seconds, because that's the second when somebody determines if they just scroll up or they decide to stay, or they'll full screen it. Ooh, you know, it's a kind of like crazy how these simple little things can affect you so hard. Like it's I don't know if you've ever listened to a ton of music and you're just picking one and you just listen to literally just like 1 or 2 seconds. You're just kind of like clicking through and you're like, nope. It's so weird, you know?
So true though.
Yeah, that's the reality of where we are today. So yeah.
And that's that idea is prevalent within a lot of your works because they're all, or most of them are short films. And from when I was watching them before you'd come over, they're all between 5 to 10 minutes. And then some you have even shorter than that. So the attention span, I guess it's just catching the attention span is most important, because something that I've learned through podcasting is a lot of people's attention spans actually longer than you think, where like the average listen time for this show is 49 minutes. So people are listening for long amounts of time and their attention is captured by it. But it, like you said, so it's first 10, 15, 20 seconds or even 5 where you have to capture it somehow. And you see that more and more now with like Netflix shows where there's just like some sort of death or some sort of explosion or something crazy that happens right in the beginning.
I think the craziest example is, I don't know if you've seen, but there's trailers of the trailers. And it's like the trailer is like what, 30 seconds, you know, the or a minute. But then there's like a 6-second trailer prior to the trailer. And that's when I started thinking, okay, this is getting ridiculous, guys. Come on. I was like, what is happening?
The trailer is just like the shortened movie now because people don't want to actually watch the movie. They want the cliff notes of it.
Yeah, they're like, you know what? Yeah, I can reference it in a conversation.
That's funny. Well, let's actually start this from the beginning and learn your story and how you ended up winning a bunch of short film awards, and kind of how we were talking before this, how you kind of stepped out of the scene for a little bit to build your story, and then life kind of just directed you right back into cinematography. I can't even speak. Cinnabun.
My old coworker calls me a cinematographer.
Yeah, let's start from, let's just say high school. How was high school Joel? How was he? What was your mindset? What was important to you back then?
So I'm going to start a little further back because I think it definitely explains a lot later on that I learned. Growing up, I think middle schoolish, I skated. So I was a skateboarder around town.
From out here?
Yeah. Yep. And, I think when the first, my dad got a computer and the first webcam came out or something like that, I just remember being fascinated by it. And then I learned one incredible technique to mess around with my friends. And that was that you can show the webcam and then put a window in front of it and block the webcam. So I would record my friends' reactions to, there was this maze game to where the dot started big, or the maze started big with a lot of space. And then the further down that you went, the smaller it went. So that required the people to go from here to right in front of the screen. And then there's this big scare. It was I think it was the Exorcist girl's face and that scream. So then I would get their reactions. So I did that to everyone, and then they were like, "Man, what are you doing?" And I'm just like, "I don't know. I just kind of like to record it. It's weird." So then, fast forward, I started skateboarding, and I just like to record again. And my parents got me a little Sony Cybershot, I think it was. It was a little hand cam, it was mainly for photos, but it did video. And then I also noticed that I just always would like to be the one. I was really good at skateboarding at the time. So I could skate. It's just I really loved filming other people skate.
Those skate videos are awesome too. When you ever see old movies of 90s skate kids, or just kind of the skateboarding profession kind of blew up after the skateboarders kind of started recording themselves and seeing how cool it actually was.
Oh yeah, man. Those old school videos, I'm a huge fan, man. The Almost Escape videos were one of my favorites because they created some sort of drama between two skaters. So that's really cool. But I guess to kind of catch it up to then going to high school is, I had a friend, his name is Semi, and he would always talk me up at school. And, I would record them. So he'd have these videos and he'd be like, "Joel's the best skater in school, Joel." And I'm the quiet skater guy. That's who I was. And he would just go up to people "No, you suck. You suck. You got to play Joel at skate." And then he'd show them the videos. So yeah, that caused a lot of fun stuff to happen. But point being is I saw these videos, even from back then, I just saw I had a mindset of what to do. So then I ended up getting injured with skateboarding that pretty much had me have a surgery, and then I couldn't skate for years. I couldn't walk for 3 months, and then I think that was the most important moment when it comes to my turn to film. Is I was stuck. I remember I was in my parents' room. It was upstairs. I busted my knee. I was watching. I knew it was Judge Judy. It was those 12. Everybody Loves Raymond, King of Queens. That was like I had a schedule because I was just stuck in a bed all day.
Price is Right in the morning.
Oh yeah, and and Maury.
Yeah,
you are not. So I was thinking, I was like, well, I can't skateboard for the rest of my life. Like my body's gonna wear out. Like, what can I do till I have gray hairs or no hair? And then I just thought, I was like, maybe I can film. It was kind of a thought back then, but I got after I learned how to walk again, which was it was really weird. Like I lost a lot of muscle mass on one of my legs because I wasn't walking. So it was just strange to kind of just literally rebuild my my legs.
What kind of injury was this?
It was I like basically busted like muscles in my knee. So I jumped off of probably like a 10-foot drop. I think it was warming up for a video. So I had gone, what do you call it? I think I had gotten sponsored, and then I wanted to go like even higher to a bigger brand. And then I was warming up, and then I just that's kind of like the worst thing. I was just warming up, and then I got injured. So basically I fell. I didn't have enough, I don't know what the right word is, velocity going forward. So it was, I just kind of like dropped down.
It was more of a downward motion,
which is
all
a
your pressure.
harder
Yeah,
fall for that. Yeah. Because if you're going forward, you can fall, and like that motion kind of like saves
takes
you.
you.
But this one was, I don't know if you skated, but if your grip tape is not grippy, your shoes can slip off. So that's what happened. I landed, and then like I didn't do the splits, but my knee bent.
And you probably knew immediately.
Oh, I got up, and it was crazy because as soon as I stood up, I thought it was normal, and then I just dropped. And then I got up again, and I'm just like, oh shit! And then all the pain just started like settling in. Yeah, so that happened, and funny enough, I don't know if you remember that show. It was MTV. People got hurt, and they made a show about it.
Oh, what was it called? It was like Wrecked or something like that. That's not the specific name.
My friend, he recorded it, and for some reason, always refused to give me that video. And I was like, are you kidding me, man? I could be on this show. I could be on there, man. Give it to me. And I was like, I always thought it was because he was hiding some stuff on that phone. He didn't want to send me the video. I'm like, how selfish are you, man? I busted my knee. Like
from that show, a lot of the wrecks were like bicycle and skateboarding. Wrecks too.
I'd forget the name at all, but that's one of my regrets. I was like, come on, man, give me the video. I just want to be on TV. But yeah, so I thought of film, and then I got accepted into UNLV, and then I did the thing to where like I was like, I'm not gonna make a lot of money. I'll play the safe route. So I went into psychology. Immediately went out. Immediately.
Good choice.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what happened there, but then I went to communication studies, which is I liked the public speaking aspect of it. And I saw a number of movies, and I just always loved the speeches in movies. And so that's why I went to communication studies. But then I realized something. I was like, I like the speeches in the movies, not really in real life. Because I was like, what am I going to do? Like, I mean, I don't know what to do with this degree. So then I realized I just like film. So then I switched over to film. And then I had my whole UNLV film experience, which we'll get into later. And then I came out of UNLV, and through UNLV does a thing to where every 2 years they award a group of filmmakers, I think it's $25,000 to make a feature film. And long story short, our team got it. And I actually just saw the first cut of the feature film.
How long ago was this?
Like, this was filmed 2 years ago, but pre-production started early 2018, and then we started filming in 2018 summer. So then it's been 2 years, and now I saw the first cut of the feature film. So it's so strange to see like your work from 2 years ago come to life, and also seeing a full motion picture that you made. It's really cool. Like most of my work, like you said, has been 5-7 minutes. If not commercials, all that stuff, 30 seconds. No, it's really cool. So now I have one feature film under my belt, and I'm actually pretty proud of it. So
how long is a featured film?
An hour and a half.
Oh yeah, that's long term.
Yeah. So it's cool. Like we'll see where it goes. So I guess what I want to say was important about this is when I left school, I needed to take a break because I feel like as a filmmaker, you have to experience life to tell stories. Oh, well, I guess you don't have to, but for myself, I want to. So I kind of just quit and just sold everything. And I was like, I'm going to just take a break. I need to just like focus on something else to kind of just recharge my creative batteries. And then I got the one phone call that I would say yes to. And I'm talking like, I was like, well, I need this job to provide everything, and I need to like have like an 8 to 5 and then go home and only do like stuff for myself and not worry about work. Well, I got that phone call, and they were like, hey, we're a company that works for what do you call it, Vegas.com. And they're like, yeah, this is what we do. It's so fun. We go around town. We film all these places like that are either super small businesses or like big, like the Cirque du Soleil shows, like Thunder from Down Under. And I remember thinking in that moment, I was like,
the universe is putting it right back in your life.
I was like,
right,
the universe does not want me to stop filming. I was like, okay. I was like, yeah, man, this sounds great. And so yeah, then I had a 2-year venture with them, and I worked with some wonderful people. One being Roberta Rad, another Larissa Stang, and we did a lot of commercial promos for like the casinos. We did one of my favorites is the Park MGM commercial, and then there's a lot that we did for the Venetian, which is fantastic.
I saw that it's all over your website. There's like, I think it was 4 different Grand Canal series or something like that.
Yeah. It was uncovered series, so it shows different spots in the Venetian. And I got to film Chef Lorena Garcia, which for me is a big deal, but not really a big deal. But my mom lost it because she's like Chef Lorena Garcia is like one of the most famous female chefs in the world. And like my mom looks up to her and she's like, get a selfie with her. I'm like, Mom, I'm supposed to be professional. I don't want to just go up to her. And she's like, no, do it. Come on, this is the one thing I want. I was like, yeah, now you take me as a professional, Mom. So yeah. And then I stopped working for them. COVID hit, and I fully expected to lose my job right away just because everyone, no joke, everyone except our group just lost their jobs. And I think I lasted 4 or 5 months, and then I was cut too, which again I took as another as a positive thing because now I get to go out. And in a way, I'm like, I'm done with my break. Now I can just go out and focus on myself. And now I'm in the state of rebuilding my website. Before, I was just a cinematographer. And now I feel like I want to tell stories. And I kind of want to get in the mindset of a director to be a better cinematographer, because a director and a cinematographer are like this on set.
What's the difference between both of them?
So a cinematographer is in charge of the visuals. So they're in charge of lighting, blocking, blocking is director and cinematographer, but composition. So basically, anything that you see and in front, like you visually see, like camera movement, anything like that, that's all planned with director and cinematographer. And another super important difference is like the mindset is I am involved in pre-production, production, and then to an extent post-production, because I either monitor the color of the video or somebody else does it, and I kind of just throw a couple notes, or I just do the color myself. So my main part would be like the production part, and I want to emphasize so much how important it is to be involved in pre-production, because all the planning, I think that 90% of my job is to plan it the right way, and I also think being like open to do what do you call it, improvising, is so important too, because you can plan everything the way that you want. I have like these lighting diagrams that I do prior if I have time to, which is I always push for. And you show up and then there's just so many variables that could change. Like for the Venetian commercial shoots, we couldn't predict how many people were going to be there at what times or when. And they weren't going to shut down the whole section for us because they make way more money off of.
Yeah, if you catch those shops on the weekend, so you could probably plan it on what day and what time, but there's still no true way to prevent people from walking in or to limit it to a specific number.
Yeah, you can. Like Chef Lorena Garcia, she loves her fans, so she can't predict when they're gonna come up to her and be like, "Oh, you're such a huge influence. Like, I just so glad to meet you." She appreciates it. And we can't stop her. Like
And you want authenticity across the camera as well. You don't want that fake reality TV kind of style thing.
Also, we don't want to piss her off. Like she could be in a bad mood, like, oh, this crew doesn't respect my, the people who like respect me. That was a huge tangent, but basically that's the whole. I would say that would be the difference, because I have emphasis on that, and the director is involved everywhere from beginning to end. There's so much on that person's mind that, it's just, I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah. So to put it in kind of business terms, the director is almost like the CEO. Like they're controlling everything that goes around, and they have to be in contact with everything. The cinematographer. Oh my God. I'm going to say it again. Cinematographer.
You could say director photographer. That's easier.
This person is basically in control of the movement and everything that surrounds the scene, except for actually recording it. Correct? They're holding the camcorder too.
They can. So I can have a crew, or I do it myself depending on what the budget is. But yeah. So it's just basically we're both directors. It's just I'm just in charge of a crew, lighting, movement, blocking with them, composition. It's just anything visual that you see, I had to do with it. But yeah, then like you said, the director is like the CEO that just manages everything, and they're in charge of it. And anything goes wrong, it's on them. But we all know it's a huge team. And
the film setup there's so much precision that has to go into, and that's something I've learned talking with Michael and yourself, and also going through this podcast and having just a very basic setup in here. The lighting is so important and
huge. Yep.
And understanding lighting is something I still haven't been able to get a hang on precisely, but it brings out so much more attractiveness to the film or whatever is being recorded that, it's like you're saying back with the 5-second rule. If there's perfect lighting right in the beginning and it's visually stimulating, then people will be locked in regardless of what's actually being announced verbally. Whatever they see looks attractive in 5 seconds, they're probably going to continue watching it to see what happens.
Yeah, no, that's a huge factor. Unless the lighting is bad on purpose to where that image looks good, yeah, it's gonna make or break the moment for sure. Like, and there's a lot of different approaches to lighting too that I could quickly mention. Like there's you can take like a stylized approach, you can take a natural approach, you can take a realistic approach, but still like you put a little bit in there just to kind of like flatter it more. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So like natural is like literally natural, and realistic is just, it is natural, but you still put in lights and kind of like fill it in.
And what was that other term you were talking about earlier? Blocking? Is that what you said?
Blocking, yes.
What is that?
So blocking is, I think, the part of cinematography to where it's, I would say, more director, but I would have input in it. Mm-hmm. And now that's when you have people in the shots and then how they move in the frame. That's blocking.
Okay.
So like, let's just say you have two people sitting down and somebody comes in, and then one who's sitting down moves out and then somebody sits in. You know what I mean? So like that would be
Okay,
walking.
and like background, like people walking through in the background.
Yep.
Or, yeah, people entering the scene, exiting the scene.
Right,
so
right.
forth.
So you're just kind of just like managing where people go. But when you're watching this, it's a huge element in a film that makes it feel real. So although it seems tedious, when you watch the film, you're like, don't question it, because in that scene there would be people, even if it's 1 or 100.
Yeah, some of the things that happen in the background of films just seem so random. Like you oftentimes I question like, what is the point of this? But it's to make it seem more realistic.
Well, sometimes people are just like that.
And the world is very random too at its most precise point.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the beauty of it, because you can go anywhere and just get influenced. Like you can, I mean, I do go to coffee shops a lot, and funny enough, I don't like coffee.
How dare you?
I know, I don't like cheese either, and everyone flips. Yep, like just like that.
Double negative right there.
Yeah, I am American too, so. But yeah, I get a lot of influence from not necessarily watching people, but sometimes like you're doing your thing and then you overhear something and you're just like, poof, idea comes out. It's like I've been in film so long that I can say that I've like set in my own ways. So it's nice to get that randomness to kind of just open your perspective a lot more. Because once you start setting in your own ways, you get comfortable and then you don't explore. And that's a huge part about being an artist. And that's what I've been reading up on a lot lately is being an artist. Not being a filmmaker, but just being an artist and expressing your ideas and being able to not just being open to a lot of stuff. It's weird. Like art's like, don't do this. And then, but in this situation, do that. So it's so like.
No, I 100% agree with this. Growing up, I was never really like a quote an artistic person in the sense of painting or some of your more traditional methods. But as I've learned over time and gotten older, that your creative expression can be translated through so many different mediums. My preferred method is through voice or through business startups. That's creative, right? If somebody starts their own business, they're putting their own artistic touch on it as well as their intellectual curiosity. And it's kind of just morphed into like this intertwinement of different ideals that are translated into whatever product you put out there. So I think that's something that I've learned over time is that creative expression doesn't have to be physical all the time either. It can be ideologically, it can be through so many different modes and mediums that everyone internally is creative in some sort of way. You kind of just have to bring that out somehow.
Yeah, and you got to find your method. Like that has actually been a large journey of what I've been going through after I left working for the last 2 years for Vegas. It's like for example, like I now just pretty much finished up building my office at my house, and it's gonna sound probably like a no-brainer to most people, but for me, I was always focused on my work, and I just wanted to get out there and do it. And I went home, fell asleep. I was that kind of guy. I started film at 22, I think so. Like legit started film at 22.
Like full-time film?
Like film school.
Okay.
Like not even like full-time. Like I was so late. Well, that's what it feels like. That I just spent the entire time catching up. And, I have a friend who, I don't know if this is a backhanded compliment or a compliment, but he's like, I've never met anyone so determined to give up pretty much anything for his passion. And I was like, wow, man, that kind of hurts. Like, what do you mean?
No, that's a great compliment to have. It shows that you're committed and you're consistent with whatever you believe to be right.
Yeah. I mean, I just, I do feel like everybody has, let's just say a superpower, and I'm happy to have found it. Like I feel like that's why I'm here, is to have a camera and to tell stories that I can. And I really, I don't know. It just, the older I get, the more it just feels like every person is being treated like they're machines. Like they have no voice. They're just doing their thing. And I just feel like I want to open up people's eyes and be like, hey, like you're human, like do what makes you happy. You know, go and make your money, whatever you need to do. But just remember, like, live in the moment. Like, don't stress about the past, or don't be depressed about it, and don't have anxiety about the future. Like, live now. So that's why when I have a bunch of films, like I always focus on positions of camera placements. I think that's my thing. Like, everybody has their area where they like to really specialize in. But I think the more I film, the more I realize that, like, I like to be in the right spot. So whenever you see my films, I'm going to say I like to plan for a lot of, like, camera positions. I mean, I'm not going to go against not doing a lot, because then there could be a lot of process and thought into like why it's a one shot or why there's so little. But in general, I like to be in the right spot. Like, when two people are looking at each other, like right now, you know, like we're looking at each other, but let's just say like something happens and then we talk about something dramatic. It can go from a medium to a close up. Like, that emphasis, it seems simple, but in the right moment, it can mean so much.
When your facial muscles tense in a certain way, it kind of exacerbates that emotion.
So minimal. That's what I'm talking about. Like, it's like literally just like a little like smirk or a little. It means the world in film because it's so close. Or even like I don't know. It also makes the world feel bigger too, because you see so many angles. It feels realer as opposed to a few. You know.
It's interesting. So you say that you're more of your focus in film is camera placement. That's something that I agree with too. I love movies that either have like the elongated film sequence where it's like 2 to 5 minute like shots is really cool. The positioning is really cool, and it seems like a lot of these different film or media companies, they kind of find their own style with it, and that's what makes people go there as well. But outside of you recognizing that that's your specialization, what do you think made you attractive to Vegas.com and this I wouldn't say iconic, but this prestigious company, Vegas.com, everyone knows of. Like, why do you think that they went with you out of everyone else who applied to it?
I'm gonna say one last comment to the last thing, and then I'll answer that right away. I do want to point out that a one shot is a lot of frames too. Like, you can move through the scene and then have different angles. So that's another thing I think if any cinematographer or film person, or in general any person listening to this moment, I would say, like, don't accept one shots, because them in themselves are a bunch, and that isn't art. Period.
I guess that makes sense, because these cameras that I'm using are like 29.97 frames per second. So that kind of makes sense.
Hey, you know, so that could be the right frame rate for. I mean, this is perfect for now. So, so now to your question, I think it's definitely because I had a friend who worked there.
Okay.
So I've been lucky enough to work with some wonderful directors. One being Mikey Yosef, who was on your show, and then I worked with recently Hunter Hopewell on the feature film. I had Tyler Yarbrough, which he was the director of the film that we got into the Cannes Film Festival. Then I've also had Roberto Rad, wonderful person, wonderful actor, wonderful director. And then, I'm blanking. Everyone's going to get mad at me for not naming it. If you're watching right now, you know that we've worked together and had a great time together. So don't get mad at me. You know, I love you.
At the end of the podcast, I'm gonna have to put like one of those credit scenes for like you guys do in the movies where it's like 10 minutes long with a million names.
Oh yeah, yeah. With all the people, like
all the credits.
That's exactly it. But yeah. So let's see, this is gonna kill me now. This is gonna kill me. Somebody's gonna yell at me. But yeah. So John Bartley. There you go. John Bartley is the other director I worked with. Is amazing. He worked at Vegas.com, and we knew each other from film school. So when I entered film school, I immediately knew what I wanted to do. Everyone goes through their phase where like they go and they explore all the different areas in film, because film, although is one area in art, it is broken off into a million different departments. So, but yeah, from the story earlier where I started with the webcam. That sounds funny nowadays. I started filming webcams, but
Check out his OnlyFans in the show notes.
Yes, I have 3 tiers. But then to skateboarding, and then I just knew. So I got into cinematography immediately. Found my mentor in school. His name's David Wallman. Huge shout out to him. He taught me, I think, definitely to think the right way. And I was also a huge fan of his works. I don't know if you're familiar. You have to be familiar with TED Talks, right?
Oh, dude, that's one of my favorite things to watch.
He shot a bunch of those. Like that was his work, and I was just like, although he's done movies too. It's just like I am huge into deep conversations. Like
Same.
I love it. And what we're doing now, I love it. Like, I mean, you can. Funny enough, me and Mikey, he can tell you, man. There's been many times he's come over, and then we just like trail off onto like the weirdest tangents. We're like, life is a video game.
We actually talked about that in our episode.
Oh, well, that's the thing that we always mention, because we always remember the night we were like supposed to just see each other for like 30 minutes, and then it was like 3 hours.
Yeah,
and we haven't moved a spot, like an inch or whatever. But yeah, I found my mentor David Wallman, and then I met John, and through John, I ended up winning my first award ever for a film called Barriers. It's on my website. You check it out. It's one of my favorites. And through that relationship with him, I think we've kept in touch throughout the years, even till now. He lives in New York. Oh my God, I was so scared for him from the pandemic. Yep. I was like, I texted him, I was like, dude, are you okay, man?
It was a madhouse down there. It still is, although the virus hasn't plagued it as much as it did when it kind of just burnt through the entire city in the matter of like a month and a half to 2 months. It's still on high lockdown though.
I mean, they should be till it's safe. We don't. I mean, I don't want to lose John.
Yeah.
Or lose a lot of people, you know. Mm-hmm. But yeah. So John worked there before he moved to New York, and when he thought of somebody to replace him, I guess he called me, and then he let me know. So that is the realistic answer. Now, I do think my work has a lot to do with it. So I wasn't just like a friend who was just called. It's that I provide good work. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, and I am determined, and I think definitely Roberto will stand by this. I am definitely passionate about my work. I always push to be prepared. I always push for improvising stuff on set, because I think that's so important. You'll find something you just don't think of, and it'll be like the best part about the video suddenly. It's weird because I feel like people are like so like focused on improvising, or like so focused in preparing. I feel like I found a good medium, and I think that's like the biggest strength that I could have when approaching art is like I love both so much. And I'm telling you, when I like to prepare, I do, man. I do. I show you the lighting. My shot list schedule is like one of the things I'm proud of, because when let's just say you write a script, you're like, hey, Joel, I want you to shoot it. And I'm just like, yeah, dude, let's do it. And then you send it over to me, and I will obviously read the script, but I will, there's a kind of a collaboration thing. It depends on who you work with, but you can have a director who already has all his shots, a director who has no shots, and a director who likes to be in the middle and be like, hey, tell me your shots, I'll tell you mine. So let's just assume it's the middle one for the example.
Are shots just like video recordings?
Yeah, clips.
Okay, clips. Okay.
Like whenever you watch it, like every time it changes, that would be a shot.
Okay.
So I plan it out to the T. Like I read it, I organize it. I have this template that I've made over the years, and it pretty much, I know myself. I know how long I take in certain things, and I have everything scheduled and planned out exactly. Room for improvisation, and also like a realistic time to set up. So whenever I go on set and I work with my AD, Rick Moore, which is absolutely fantastic. You guys need to know him because he's also a great person. He schedules it out. So like I'm always on time with these shoots, which is amazing, especially with these casino shoots, like shooting commercials for them. They're like the biggest money makers in town. So like you want to be on point with them. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I mean, you can hear me being super happy about it. Like me preparing and being able to pull it off is
It's mission accomplished. It's mission accomplished.
I'll go off on a quick story about the Park MGM shoot. It's my favorite shoot, but it was also the most stressful one. And I'll tell you about the challenge.
Probably have a lot of eyes on you for it.
Oh yeah, the whole process of like being there and have all these executives watching over your shoulder, and I think compared to what they're used to seeing, I'm relatively younger for somebody in that position, but at the same time, we're coming into an age where like everybody who has a camera can go out and shoot now. So like,
just like anybody with a laptop can go learn anything online with education.
Hey,
everything is in the palm of our hands now.
I also have a degree at YouTube University.
Ooh, yes, retweet. I've said that before too. I agree.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Hey man, when's our 10-year reunion? You know? Like,
sign up for our masterclass after this. Only $600, and we'll teach you everything.
Hey, we're gonna make it 12 now. But so the Park MGM shoot was, if you, it's also on my website. If you watch it, it's like 47 seconds, maybe 50, around there, and it goes by so fast, and you're just like, oh my god, this is cool, you know. But the whole process of making it was a huge challenge, and mind you, everything you see was planned. We storyboarded it. I remember sitting in the room with our team and just kind of like literally like thinking about every single way. But they wanted to, before they opened up, this was the video that launched their opening basically. So it was a renovation. I think it was it Monte Carlo before?
It was Monte Carlo. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is right before they opened up, and they approached us and they're like, hey, we want a video that showcases all of our new spots, that shows diversity. And we also want you to do it in one day.
And 40 seconds.
And do it in like short form. And I'm just like, I chopped my mouth. I was like, huh? And so we're like, okay, well, first question, how many places? 12. And I'm like, what? 12 locations in one day? And I'm like, maybe that doesn't sound crazy, but let me explain. When you have a full crew, basically the more people, the longer it takes. We have a crew of, I'm going to say like 10, 12 people. Actors, you got to include that. That's another 5. And then you have extras. That's like 10, 20. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So then, that's a lot of people. And then you have to go in, you have to bring in the equipment. It's a casino, so you can't just walk in with the equipment. You have to go through a special area so people can admit you in. So, and then moving between locations, mind you, we have to walk from these locations to another with this equipment, with these people. You know what I mean? So like every location goes from like in your head being like, oh, we're not going to have 15 minutes. We're not going to have 15 to like an hour.
And then you have like 10, 20, 30 minutes in transit in between every spot.
Then you have lunch. Always provide a lunch for your crew. People get tired. They need to eat. 12 locations, assume 1 hour, lunch coming in, all that stuff. That's now 15 hours at best. And I was like, there's no way. And then, so me and the team, we got together and we thought about it. And then I thought of one of the most genius things that I could think of in this case. I hired 2 crews and I rented double the equipment. So me, the head positions, the director, the production designer, the assistant director, makeup, and that, and I don't think we had sound for that one, but and the actors, we would stay. So then I had crew 1, crew 2. And crew 1 was in charge of all odd number locations, 1 through 12. And then crew 2 was in charge of all even locations. So when we finished up location 1, we moved on to location 2, and then crew 1 would move on to location 3 and set it up.
So you had to split the difference.
Right. So they handle each one. I already had lighting diagrams, so I gave it to my gaffers. I had 2. And I was like, hey, here's the paper. Set up these lights here exactly. When we come in, we just tweak. And that's how we made our day. It was the first time I've ever done that. And I was just like, holy, I don't know how I would have done it any other way. So we knocked out the whole shoot and accomplished the impossible. And then they got it and they absolutely loved it. And then now I would walk to, I love the whole downtown area, the Arts District area. And, I would run into a lot of MGM employees because, half the strip is MGM. Mm-hmm. and they would somehow that video got into the conversation, and they're like, I was like, I was the one who shot that. You saw it? What? And it was always a fun conversation because then I would be like, how many people saw it? They're like, well, every time you start as an employee, they screened it, and I think they had one massive screening.
Oh, that is awesome.
Yeah, and I was like, whoa,
Amazing.
that's cool to think that that happened. Another super fun accomplishment that I can kind of like, it's a random thing. So apparently I was the first cinematographer to have a drone in the Venetian inside. So when you see the Grand Canal shop,
That must have been fun.
that was scary. I can understand why nobody wanted to fly a drone in there. Because, I mean, there's a lot of people. Again, you can't predict people.
Yeah, drunk people try to swat at it or something crazy like that.
People see a drone and everybody's attention goes straight to it. And we were over water, we were over people. It's just like we obviously did everything as safe as possible. It's pretty cool to think that I was the first one to have that being done. And kudos to my drone operator, Tim Harbour. He did all the hard work there. I did the planning, but he made it happen. There are some issues that I will warn people if you ever try to fly one or even get permission, which is really hard to get permission in there to fly drones because it's indoors. It's difficult. Let's just say there are a lot of factors that work against you, and definitely technical ones.
Yeah, there's so much preparation that goes into these, 40-second or minute, 2-minute short films for commercials that you don't even realize, and then you tack in like the time effort that it takes to set everything up, and the bureaucratic BS kind of you have to go through, where it's like, oh, I have to hit up my boss, who has to hit up his boss, and you're waiting around for weeks trying to get the answer. And it's really just takes like months and months on end to literally shoot something that's like 40 seconds. But it's so widely used, as you said, like it's in the employee introduction course for all the employees who are being hired. And so it's it's widely used. So you understand it, but it's still just like a moment. Like it takes so long.
It's a lot of, oh man, you should see the BTS photos from like when we start to when we end. We go from being happy to like just look destroyed, like everywhere, souls broken, like just everything.
Let's talk about some of your short films, because these are ones that I actually enjoy. And something you'd mentioned earlier is that, you're not a script writer, so people will bring you scripts, and then you kind of look into it and see if it's feasible, if it's a good idea, if they're going to get laughs, is it serious, whatever the case is. And my favorite one is the Christmas one, A Christmas Dinner. It's basically a 5-minute short film where people are sitting around a Christmas dinner, and then the narrator is like narrating this Christmas dinner, and the people who are sitting around the dinner realize that this narrator's voice is something real. And so it's quite comical and hilarious, but it has kind of that like old traditional feel to it as well, because that's something that you see in like old Christmas movies, where it's like, oh, now the Johnsons are sitting around the Christmas fire and they're about to share their presents with each other. Little did John know, yada, yada, yada.
That narrator sabotages the family. Like,
when you put this short film together, was it written by somebody that you know? How did you come into this idea, and what was the process behind putting this together? Because I know you'd mentioned that also won a bunch of awards as well.
Yeah, so that was definitely one of the favorites for sure. Starting. I'm gonna mention the awards because there's gonna be a significance to the contrast of what I'm gonna say after, which of how it was made. So at our school, I think we swept it, so we won pretty much almost. It was either everything or almost everything.
Is that UNLV Film Festival or something?
Yeah, and I'll mention after again. I want the contrast to kind of like hit. So. And then we went on to several others, and then we hit what do you call it? Cannes Emerging. I think it was like Emerging Filmmakers one, and then another one, and it was top 5. And that was an area of like life where I expected to hit later on, and it was so crazy that it just happened right away. I thought I would be in a totally different position when I reached there, and it was. It was a huge deal. I think the school made a huge deal about it. And what do you call it? The directors and Tyler, amazing guy. It's seriously incredible, and the whole team too. Like no joke, like it's so crazy how it happened, and I'll go into it in a little bit. But like all the pieces just fell, and it just happened. It's one of those things where like you definitely don't expect it, and it just hit. So that being said, turns out this film was a 48-hour film project. If you don't know about those are the film is made from beginning to end, meaning writing to post-production, editing, finalize all effects, everything in 48 hours. So you were given a challenge at 7 p.m. on Friday, and you have to turn it in by Sunday at 7 p.m. No questions like asked. It's just you just have to do it, period.
This is part of UNLV's program?
This is a worldwide event that happens, and UNLV has one. So there's there's two of them in Las Vegas. There's a Las Vegas one, and then there's a UNLV one. So I think the UNLV one is during winterish area, and then the Las Vegas one is spring area. Yeah. So again, was not expecting this. We entered into a school competition kind of deal, basically, you know? So the whole process of the film, it was a team. We all pretty much, most of us knew each other. And you were given a genre that you have to film. You literally like draw it out of a thing. It's like random. So you have a genre, you have a character, you have a line of dialogue, and you have a prop you must put in your film. No questions asked. So again, it's not only a challenge to make it in 48 hours, but you have to include all of these four. So we got, I don't remember all of them. Or maybe I shouldn't say because I don't want to spoil it. Yeah. So the writing process is the first thing that hits. You get together. I think we met up super briefly because you want to have input in the film. Like everyone can have input and says what they have available, what they don't. But at the end of the day, you're going to want to let people do their position. So we don't want to step over the writers or anything.
Yeah, especially with only 48 hours. There's no time to even micromanage.
Hopefully.
No time to even sleep.
Some people can make it work, but I, in general, say let people do their jobs, you know? Mm-hmm. And then, I think at some point in the middle of the writing process, Tyler hits me up and he's like, hey, we got the location. Can you come through and I was like, can we prepare as much as possible? I was like, done. Because you know me, I like to prepare. So I was like, yes, let's do this. It's a 48. I need this. So I go, I bring the equipment. I fall asleep on location that night. And I wake up to like people like working and stuff. And I stayed up extra late preparing as much as I can. And I had a plan and everything. So yeah, it's already hectic. You can tell the writing process just ended. It's already hectic as hell. And so we wake up and the production starts, and I planned out all the stuff, and people put the lights, and that's the most tedious part that takes the most time.
Setting up lights,
lighting, yeah. It's so often that usually you have to move around, and you have to be careful because there are electrical cables, there's hot lights and stuff. You have to set them up in weird places, like you would, things look so natural, but then if you look outside of the frame, you're just like, whoa, what the, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes people have like, let's just say you have your light that you have here, they put it in frame and then they take it out in post. It's crazy.
Wow.
Sometimes they have different takes of different people in the same shot. So if you were filming me and there was two people here, they can like literally take a different moment of this person, of that person, and combine it into one shot. David Fincher does that a lot.
See, that's why I find post editing something that I've learned while doing this is such a pain in the ass, but it's so pivotal and crucial to a success of a film.
I think it's probably the closest thing to magic that there is. But yeah, so we go to filming it, and actually, this short was filmed I think in like 6 to 7 hours. I think it was 8 to 5. I got up at 8. We set up. We started filming around 10 or 11, and then we ended at 5. We had to end at 5 because the sun was gone, and I used natural light to be a big source in the ambient lighting. Ambient being like just the surrounding area. The actors lighting on their face, that was me, but I like to influence my lighting according to what I have and use. So basically, any direction that faced the windows, I shot earlier. Any direction that didn't face the windows, I shot later because I used the lighting to my advantage. So yeah, it was a whole trip. I won't get into the whole thing because I will talk forever. But the thing to take away is one of the actors didn't show up. So one of my crew members ended up being an actor in there. His name's Kenzie. He plays. He has black hair, light skin, green eyes. I don't want to spoil his role. That's why I'm not mentioning his character. But long story short, he did incredible. And I think at that moment we found that he can really, really like act. So later on, he ended up being the supporting actor in the feature film. So that's why I bring him up. So we found him that day, and then he's now in the feature film, which he again killed it. Does an incredible job. So again, you never know what happens. You just walk in, and like all these things come up that you just don't expect. But we end up filming. We finish up. We wrap up early, and in a 48, you totally expect to film for like 20 hours. They're like the long, strenuous weekends, and you're like, oh my God, it's finally over. We filmed in like 8 hours. So we were done. We're like, wow, we're in a competition. This feels weird. Like, did we finish? Are we? Is this?
It's like when you're taking a test in high school or in college, and you're the first one to be done. And you're like, wait, am I supposed to be done? Maybe I should recheck and sort through all the answers again.
Did I get the same test as you guys?
Yeah.
Just test A or B?
You kind of sit there and wait for a minute or two to just give it some extra time so you don't look like that jackass who finished like 20 minutes before everyone else.
You know what? That's if you can visualize it. Just imagine a whole classroom of people. Everyone's like this, taking the tests, and I'm the dude who just. You know what I mean? So yeah, no, that and then we did. I don't know if I should say this. We did something terrible. Not really terrible. It's just funny. We celebrated. And the hilarious thing about it is that we went out and we were like, oh my God, it's a 48. We finished. We were too happy too early. So basically, we took the editor out with us too, just to celebrate. I don't know what the mindset was. I think we're just happy that we finished on time and early, and we were all confident about it. And we finished our jobs, you know. Now it's the editor's job. But then why did we invite the editor, you know? So then we woke up the next day, and then we're still in the competition, and we're like, oh shit, we need to edit it. So we edited. Well, he edited. It was and then I had an idea. I was like, fuck. Like I remember seeing the film that won a year or two before. It was by Heather Arata. She's a wonderful filmmaker. This is what I mean. I mentioned so many people I work with because they're all fantastic.
That's the movie industry within itself. Just credits everywhere. Everyone's name has to be acknowledged because the more your name is marketed, the more prevalent you'll become.
Yeah,
so it makes sense.
It's like it's an art form where you have to collaborate. So you get lucky enough to be social with your job, I guess. But she made some credits of her film that she won. I think she did the City 48 and won. I'm pretty sure. And I just remember that's what stood out to me. It's like when I see films, usually like the credits are just trash because you don't have enough time because you have 48 hours. But when I saw hers, it just made the film feel complete. It made it feel much better than the others just because the credits were nicer. And there was a little thought put into it. So I was like, okay, well, while you edit, I'm going to make some awesome credits. It was a Christmas dinner, so I made it Christmas themed. And when you watch it, it's not much, but it makes a huge difference. So then we, he finished up just in time, and then I give him the credits. I was like, here you go, man. I got it all nailed down. It's all like nice and stuff. And then, we finish, we turn it in on time. We go to the festival. We have that positive outcome. We didn't expect, for all of that to happen. And then, what I was going to say, okay. So all that happens, and then we just feel so humbled, you know, like it was a super fun experience. It was a huge challenge. It was made in 48 hours, and it made it to this festival that the whole world wants to be a part of, and a selected few get in if they're lucky. And I fully believe that our film, again, Tyler Yarbrough, amazing guy, did an awesome job. The cast was incredible, crew was on point. But the narrator, he's a close friend of mine. His name is J.J. Brennan. At the time, he was the oldest graduate of UNLV. Oldest graduate. He graduated, I think I was 78 years old. And I remember when I first met him, the first thing I thought of was, this guy's voice is incredible.
Dude, it's a perfect narrator's voice, perfect narration.
Yeah. And, I remember calling him and giving him the news. And this was probably like one of the happiest moments as a filmmaker that made me feel complete. Because this is what I want to do, is I want to influence people and make them feel good. Change their mind about something, not change, but it broaden their perspective about it. But I called him and I was like, hey, we got into Cannes. And he teared up. He was like, that's incredible. I never thought in my lifetime, and I'm at the later end of my life right now. And he's like, that's what he said. And that was kind of sad when he said that. I was like, no, don't say that.
It's such a cool story though, because even at 78, being an oldest graduate, he's re-beginning his life on the latter end of his lifespan. So to see that, to first graduate at 78 and then to be selected to a prestigious film festival.
Yeah.
It's an amazing, incredible story.
And that's another example at his age. He told me he was in one commercial when he was younger, and I recognized him because he had the same ears. I don't know how I recognized that, but I was like, that is JJ. He's I think he's 14 at the time. He's in a commercial. And then, he was like, that was my only acting experience back then. And I've always wanted to be an actor. So I came back to UNLV to fulfill that. And then he's like, Joel, now that this happened, I'm fulfilled. He's like, thank you so much. I'm like, no, man, it was you. It was your voice. I just said, hey, Tyler, this guy's voice is awesome. So people have more in them than they think. It literally, all it takes is meet someone. 1 minute of your life could change your life.
Isn't it so strange in life that I would say the most success that you find, or the best relationship, or anything that has some sort of substance to it, always comes in crunch time or very spontaneous adventures, or very sporadic. It's not as pre-planned as you would like, when it comes to your films. But the outcomes of a lot of expectations in life are always preceded with some sort of chaotic craziness or some sort of coincidence.
Deadlines are 100% needed in my life. So I say it in my life because maybe there's some people out there who don't, but I think deadlines are good. They push. They, like you said, all these things could be created in such crazy time crunch measures. So I'm a huge supporter of it, and that's why I love improvising for that exact thing. You don't know what's gonna happen. If you know me outside of my work, I'm huge on hanging out randomly. I'm huge on just kind of taking your time and just I don't know, just taking the moment in for what it is. So it's
living in the present.
Yeah, it's kind of it's such a contrast to my work because then I'm all about preparing and then on set doing that. But it's such a breath of fresh air, man. So I definitely totally 100% agree, man.
I agree. There's one more narrative film that I want to talk about that I really enjoyed. This one was, what was the name? It's the one where they're in the office.
Oh, Alternative Therapy.
Alternative Therapy. This film is absolutely hilarious. And there is a few twists and turns within it that made me just my eyes were glued to it and fascinated by it.
Hey, you know what, man? That is definitely, I think that's the most recent short I want to say that I filmed that's on there, I think. But that was an incredible short too.
Is this also another short that somebody brought the storyline to you, or was it something that somebody you knew?
So yeah, definitely when it comes to short films or narrative films, everyone brings stories to me because I don't write. I mean, I do write, but it's for myself and my own passion projects. But when it comes to all this stuff, it's like I said, it's so broken up into different areas that I need to focus on one, be good at that, and then kind of learn from others. So the story was written by and directed and acted by Roberta Rad, but also Larissa Stang, the editor. She also, I think they were just like joking around some ideas, and then they were like, you know what, man, we should do this and you should do that, and then it's like, wow, that sounds really funny, and those conversations lead to this. You know what I mean? So it's just like consistency is so important. You know, like do one thing and then follow through with it, and that's what happened. They were joking around, and then this film came out. Again, that was a whole, every film presents its own challenge, and I think this one had by far the best problems I've encountered.
Best problems. That's a catchphrase you don't hear that often.
The best problems I've had. I was on there, and I remember I was on a wide lens. I was on a 14 millimeter. Which basically, if you guys know what that means, and I was close to him too. So what that means is that I'm super close to that person. I think Roberto was like this far away from me.
It's not proper social distancing requirements in today's standards.
In today's standards, a huge violation. But back then was not COVID. So we're doing a comedy here, and he's playing like at the moment I don't want to spoil it, but he's under some sort of influence.
It's kind of like therapy inception is how I would.
Oh yeah,
is that how I would describe the short film?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I should give you a quick overview. Basically, a therapist is talking about his interactions with his patients and how he's troubled between them. So quick overview of that film. But yeah, so I was so close to him. And I keep in mind, I have the camera, and I'm focusing and I'm operating, and I'm staring at a monitor. Again, that monitor's I went too far away, but that monitor is so close to me, but so is he. So like in the inch of space where I can see forward, I see him, and he's doing his performance. It's fantastic. It was during the more energetic part of it, and he's just killing it. And I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, Joel, don't laugh. But he sees me smirk and like doing the, like the little giggles. And then he just stops. He's like, Joel, I need you to not laugh right now. And I'm like, dude, you're doing so good. It's so hard.
It's so funny though. It's so funny seeing your friends act, even though they need to be professional.
Right. And I keep my game strong. Like I'm always like knocking out. I think that's the only time I've ever cracked in a comedy, honestly. And so whenever you see that wide close up of him where he's like super close to the camera, and Kenzie's in that film as well, by the way, from the Christmas dinner short. And whenever you see that moment, just think the only time I cracked, I was laughing. He's like, Joel, stop. Like, you're making me laugh. I'm like, yeah, you're killing it, man. Like,
so I have a question then. As we discussed, you were doing commercial films. The Christmas Story was for UNLV. Some of these other narrative films, what are the purpose of recording these if you're not being directly paid for them?
So I think I can answer this pretty good with a little tangent here. So there's this huge debate whether you go to school or you don't. And I think I have a quick answer to that, at least for me, and it's worked out for me. But you know, when I get these jobs, I don't say I went to film school. It honestly, it either doesn't matter or works against you, which is kind of weird because in any other area, a degree helps you immensely. Mm-hmm. But really, people just care about your work, to be frank. So for me going to school, I think I walked into the mindset knowing that I'm going to go to school to get knowledge for myself, to exercise my narrative filmmaking muscles. So when you go in there with that idea, it's completely worth it. Also, you network, you meet people who want to film as opposed to run into them randomly, or maybe you're on these sets with a lot of people who, let's just say you didn't go to film school and you go to sets and you meet people. You can meet people that way. But a lot of those people could also just be just wanting to get the check and go, But in film school, you find a lot of ambitious people, easy. So to have the mindset of a director, a cinematographer, an editor in these high positions on a film set is super valuable. So I got everything I needed out of it. I actually went to CSN for a semester because I had taken all the cinematography courses, all the production courses at UNLV. I was like, I need something else because I just want to keep learning. So I went to CSN, took their cinematography course. John Aliano is also fantastic. His class is amazing. And even learning, I took the same class at a different school, CSN, but even learning from a different person is so valuable. So I also learned techniques there. So in short, it's super valuable if you just want to have that mindset. You want to exercise those skills. But if you want to just make money, go and do the job, and you get happiness out of it, I'd say you can definitely learn everything you need to do without going to school.
Interesting. Yeah. So it's more so you need to build your portfolio, build that library so that when people come to you, it's not just like a resume where it's like, oh, I worked at this place or I went to this school. You're like, hey, here's my work. Now you can see what I've been working on for 5 years, 10 years, your life, whatever the case is. And then whoever you're approaching, if they want to pay you, they can make more of a direct decision based off what is there rather than your word.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And there's a huge, by the way, this is one of the things that I'm not really for anymore, but everyone's like, work for free, do this for your reel. You know what, man? You can choose your projects for that, but point is like, don't fall into that trap. People just want you to work for free, and really think about if this is worth it. I honestly, I don't think I've gotten most of my jobs because of my reel. People look at your reel, and what that tells you is, for at least for cinematography, is you can film images and either A, make it look pretty, or write for the story. But they're not seeing your narrative storytelling skills through there because they're only seeing a snippet. So to really see if you're good at, for me, cinematography, you have to see my films and see if I can uphold a whole entire film, because it's easy to show an image for 3 seconds, 1 second, be like, oh, it's pretty. But how long can you hold it? Can you tell entire stories? So to answer your question is like, why do I do this? Narrative films are primarily not paid for, and I've done a few that are paid and a few that aren't. But it's because it gets you to where you can get paid for it. You need to mess up. You need to, what is it called? So it's just when you succeed by failing. I forget what the saying is, but you just need to mess up. You need to put in your 10,000 hours. So it makes me more than happy to, because also I work outside of narrative films, and it's good to get a break as well. Mm-hmm. It's good to like be doing something to where it doesn't feel like a job, Yeah.
So there's a few variables that go into it, for the leisure side, for the professional side, and for the skill building side, and the social networking as well.
Yeah. I was going to mention that. Like, it's networking as well. Like, doing these free jobs lead to me getting paid for jobs. Doing these free jobs leads to me meeting new people. So like, for the fashion stuff I do, like some of them are paid, some of them are not. And I network and I make that connection, because the first time you work together is by far the most important, because you kind of like set the foundation with that person. Also, they want to know if you're real, like it's so important to just like lay it out the first time. And then that sets a huge relationship that can pay off later on. And to like show a big payoff was, I did all these short films, got my name out somehow, and then I was offered the feature film. And that was a huge deal, because as a filmmaker, that's like your goal, is to make a feature film, whether it's a documentary, a narrative, maybe you want to reach like a TV series, So I was lucky enough to have been chosen. And then, that was completely worth it. And especially after seeing it like 2-3 days ago. It I don't know, it brought back a smile that was so sincere that I haven't felt in a while, because I was like, I don't know, I just again didn't think I'd be here at my age. I thought it was going to be like later on.
Life moves really fast. Sometimes it's still for longer than you expect, and then you hit that just exponential growth out of nowhere, and you're just like, well, what the fuck just happened in the last 6 months or 6 days?
Yeah,
especially in Vegas too. Vegas must be a very, interesting town when it comes to film, because we were just discussing the networking aspect of providing films. Vegas is a town that's been built on relationships and networking because of the strip, right? Like everyone's there trying to work for a tip. And in order to get a tip, you have to build that relationship with your customer. And it's kind of that same idea is kind of translated into the film industry as well. So you see this weird blend of just trust and knowing people. Like you said, with getting hired at Vegas.com, you were hired because of the person that you know. You kind of got that Vegas juice, that quote unquote favorite thing that everyone always talks about. But it was your skills that kept you there. Your friends got you in, and your skills kept you there for 2 years until coronavirus decided to say no.
Changed everything.
Where do you think film is going now with coronavirus and different social precautions, medical precautions? What does the outlook look like over the next, 6 months to a year or two?
Well, everyone's going to definitely be careful. I mean, I don't think it's going to die. Not at all. I mean, we are at home watching, so we need to make stuff for people to watch. So it's just, I'll just say it simply, like, we're just going to be more careful. We're definitely limited in what we can do. Although I think Nevada recently changed up their limits a little bit better,
Yep, 250 capacity without staff.
Yeah, well, then the whole scanning thing, you have to make people feel safe. And that would be just the biggest thing. I kind of don't really like to get too into it, because we've all heard it over and over for the last 6 months, but I think we'll be safe, man.
Do you think because of what the pandemic has done in regards to putting an emphasis on things going digital, remote working, do you think this changes the film industry permanently? Whereas you see a lot of feature films being pushed out on these digital platforms like Netflix and Amazon. And now that people are going to be majorly working from home, do you think that, like I said, do you think this changes the film industry permanently going forward?
Oh, yeah. No, I think it does, but I don't think it's a bad thing. I think that I think it's just giving that area more attention now, because it was existent before. It was just a slow build. And social media is definitely a big example of how it's shifted. And going from watching a movie in the theater to watching it at home is a huge sad thought, because the dream is to be in a theater and watch it. Your full attention is there. It's like what I think I'm mentioning earlier is your the different areas, your attention span changes. In a theater, you expect to be there an hour and a half, so you'll be patient. You don't have to be like caught immediately because you want to be there for the whole thing. But for social media, it's like that 5 seconds. So being at home, it's just so much easier to just get up and go. So that's the only negative thing that I can really like point out with that. But it opens the doors for so many more people though, because getting in theaters and the festival route and all that stuff, like it can be tough. It's doesn't look at you as your person. It looks at your film for what it is, and then it tells you yes or no.
It seems like it's a highly gated sector of the film industry to get into those theaters, because with that, it's been around for so long. There's a lot of politicking that has to go into it as well.
Yep. Your talent, being talented nowadays is not enough, because there's so many talented people. You can be extremely, extremely good, but like I think the other half of the battle is knowing people, giving effort, going out, being open to not being comfortable, like in the sense of trying different routes for your career. How marketable are you actually is a big thing, I think I would say. So let's just say you're talented, but you're like really bad at like, I guess I'm just talking about myself, because that's why I my social media, like I have a plan, and I'll be like launching it and kind of like doing the whole like post things and kind of like try to. We'll see how the followers thing goes. I'm not really emphasizing on it too much, but the important thing is that I'm open to trying that. But also you got to think of like, how can somebody sell you? How can people make money off of you? And that's another factor that people want to look at, because at the end of the day, you are helping them out and you are bringing in money. So it's just a whole mindset that you just don't really think about. You focus on like your skills and stuff, but then like it's another factor you have to emphasize on if you want to be like hired a lot, you know.
Your skills are just one tool in this widely built shed. So it's so tough. You know, maybe that was the hammer. Your skills is the hammer to get the nail in, but you still have the wood. You still have to build the frame. You have to look at the house for what you're building and not just that one small piece.
I think actually Mikey told me something similar to that. Was I think he told me about a conversation he had with one of his mentors in LA, I think it was, or I think it was his mentor, but he said, like, how often can you bring the same quality? Like, yeah, you did it once, but are you a one-hit wonder, or are you going to make this consistent? Because again, how marketable are you? What can you bring to the table over time? So yeah, keep in mind, it's not something we all want to think about, because you know, none of us wants to peak. You know,
it's true. No one wants to peak in high school.
Oh yeah, man. Ooh, that's the worst one.
Ooh, yeah. People were stuck back then. But if I think it's a few tidbits that we gained through this conversation, it's that consistency is key, and content is king. That's the way that the world is transforming.
100%. Like, yeah, everywhere in life, you just have to keep going and keep showing that you can.
Keep pushing. Well, I always ask 2 questions on the way out, similar to everyone. The first question is, the year is 2030. What does the ecosystem of Joel Martinez's filmmaking career look like?
Well, I am in a stage right now to where I am figuring it out, so I can give you definitely an idea. I think so. The whole time I've been talking about cinematography, but I found a love for directing, and I don't expect me to focus on that, but I love how much I'm learning from it. I love how much it's putting me in a different mindset. So it's expanded me to do music videos and to do a lot of fashion stuff. And I think I've found a very good system of and creative output with fashion videos. So I definitely will be expanding there. I have 2 music videos in the works right now that I'll be directing. I have gotten a lot of support from the roller skating community. It involves roller skaters. And I have a band called Indigo Kid, who I'm filming for, who also has incredible music. And it's just so nice to see it being put together. So I think in the future, I will definitely be like directing a lot more. So I do narrative films, I do commercial work, and then I have these 2 other categories that I do a lot now. So I don't know where I'll be headed in terms of which one picks up, but it's so nice to just like switch between those 4 and kind of get an outlook. The feature film will be out, so hopefully I'll be filming more feature films. I'm so stoked that it's out, and I'm also bummed because it was 2 years ago, which means I should be filming one right now so I can have one 2 years from now. You know what I mean? But yeah, there you go. I'm so happy I'm working for myself right now too. So I fully expect myself to be doing this for myself for a living. I have my office, my creative space to where I am influenced and on a roll. I have a calendar now. It's so important to have. Like, you need to just like set a schedule for yourself. I'm so stuck, dude. I totally imagine myself working for myself, having a full blown. I mean, I'm starting my business right now, so I'm fully confident that it'll follow through, especially with all the wonderful people I've met here. I think Vegas is definitely a great place to meet people. Like there's so much potential. Like I know everyone tells me to move to LA. Everyone tells me to go to New York, go to Atlanta.
All right, here, hold on. Let me stop real quick because you're already transgressing into what I was about to ask.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The last question is, what does Las Vegas mean to you?
Well, Las Vegas means home. I was born and raised here. So it's meant a lot. But I just think it's growing, man. I think the internet has a huge impact on what you can do now. So before, I would say you would have to move to go to a certain area to meet certain people. But now it's just, you can do whatever you want, at least to get you started off and taken off. And then I'll travel and I'll do my thing. But Vegas just means a ton of potential, and you will get what you want as long as you make it work. You put in time and you do it. I think there's enough people to, and again, I'm talking strictly in my area of expertise. I do think it's possible. I do think there's obviously better opportunities in other places, but I do think it's possible, and it's growing. And maybe in like 5 to 10 years, it'll be totally different. You know, it already feels like it.
Yep. Vegas goes through these repurposing periods every about 10 to 20 years. And we were moving into the sports and convention space, but it also seemed like right before everything got shut down that Vegas was starting to build bridges off of tourism and into different sectors. And a lot of the outskirts of the city were finding homes for all these different various industries as well. So.
Yeah. Talk about Vegas reconstructing itself. That is literally what's happening right now. The most income all the most what do you call it? Just tourism and all that is just killed from here right now.
Yeah.
But I guess that leads on to the last thing I want to mention is although Vegas is definitely home, I made this COVID Vegas video. So I went out, COVID started, and then nobody knew what it was. It was scary. It's still scary, but it was super scary back then. And I just remember talking to my coworkers, back then when I worked with the company, and I was like, I feel like we need to go out and document this. Like who's seen Vegas like this? And there's a handful of people who also did what I did. So I'm by no means saying I was the only one. But I remember I got sick. I didn't have COVID, but at the time I had some virus, and it was perfect timing for me to be like, oh my God, do I have COVID? And the doctor's like, you don't have it, but it's bad luck. 9 out of 10 times it's a bacteria, but that's a virus. And I'm like, okay, what can I do? Nothing.
Ugh.
I'm like, oh, okay. So I just have some other form of, I just got to wait it out. So
you have COVID-18.
Yeah. I was like, okay, cool. Thanks, man. And it's the truth. That's all we can do. There's nothing I could do. I just got to wait it out. But I mentioned that because I wanted to go out and film empty Vegas, because nobody has seen that. And I think it's definitely going to pay off later on in life to where the city is restored. And then you see this video and you're like, this was a time when it was empty. So the video is like 1.5 minutes. Definitely check it out. It's on my website on the featured page. And it's, a lot of people mentioned to take like the stylized, empty, put some like scary music in the background kind of vibe. But I just, for me, the scariest thing was seeing the city empty for what it was. So I left the color there. The camera movement is slow and always moving because I was walking. And as that moment was happening, everything did feel surreal and slow. So I definitely think it's a really cool video to check out.
I did enjoy it too. It gives you this like sense of solace, and there's like ominous music, like you said, in the background, but it gets you to pause and just think about how historical that was, that the strip had never shut down before, and to see what ensued and just kind of what happened. Like when people say there's an apocalypse and there's no humans on Earth, what the strip will kind of, and the different cities will culminate into.
I'm going to be selling the footage at some point as stock footage, because I fully expect people to come out and just be like, I'm going to make my zombie Vegas video. Yeah. I need empty shots. And I'm like, well,
Boom.
There, I got him. You know what I mean?
Thinking ahead. Where can all the listeners get involved with you? Links, affiliates, anything like that?
So I am on 3 places. I have my website, which is joelmartinezdp.com. And then I have Vimeo. I love Vimeo. So vimeo.com/Joel Martinez. And then I have Instagram, which is Joel Martinez DOP on Instagram. So definitely I'll be working harder on my Instagram game recently, but my website is number one.
Website's nice.
Yeah, just check it out. It's the most, again, like if you go to social media, it's so easy to click out. But if you go to the website, it's like fully focused on me and you can really like get to know my work right there easy. And it's broken off into those 4 sections.
Yeah, it's easy, it's digestible, and it will be included in the show notes. Joel, thank you for coming on. This was a fantastic conversation. I learned a ton. I'm not very knowledgeable in the film space, so you and Mikey have blessed me with a lot of knowledge on the interworkings and the philosophy and ideals of filmmaking. So thank you.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, man. The show is great. Please watch his other people he interviews. I'm sure they're, if not better than me for sure. Everybody's got their story.
Yeah, that's what we're doing here. We're letting people become discovered and share their story and message along the way. Become the #1 talk show in Vegas, all in time. Like we said, consistency is key. So thank you, my friend, for coming on. It's been a blessing and an honor, and I wish you the best of luck going forward.
Thank you, man. I wish the best for you too, man.
Thank you. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we will catch you next time.